Hello, and welcome to the Emmy Awards. I'm your host, Emmy Cardinelli, and this is my podcast where I talk about what I've been watching or rewatching once a week. If this is the first episode of mine that you stumble upon and you enjoy it, please feel free to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get notified when I upload a new episode. Like and subscribe if you're listening to this on YouTube, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. So this episode, as the title suggests, will be about Big Brother 28 Week 4. I've been covering Big Brother 28 on the podcast. That's obvious. I'm sorry. I don't know. Anyways, this episode is going to be out a little bit later than my last few have been. Hopefully, starting week 5, I'll be a bit back to schedule. I've just had a lot going on. But thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts. I wanted to get an episode out about week 4 specifically because it was a very eventful week. So I appreciate the patience for the delay, and I hope you enjoy my thoughts. I'm just going to jump straight into it. So Big Brother 28 week 4, it's so funny because it's not when I recorded my last episode about Kamu's HOH, I had yet to see the results of the week 4 HOH because of feeds had been down. So I recorded while feeds were down, and so I didn't know who was the HOH when I recorded that for week 4, but I was so defeated. And when the HOH was announced for feeds finally came back. They were down for hours and hours and hours. They finally came back, and it was genuinely the worst news ever. And it did not help the state I was in of doom and gloom about the season. And I felt that way it was a very, very last week was depressing, week 3, and week 4 was crazy. It was a roller coaster. I was happy, and then I had hope. I had hope, and then I lost hope, and that I was in a constant state of that meme that's it's so over, we're so back. I've never felt that way to the extent that I did in week 4 of Big Brother 28. It was genuinely crazy. So Haley won. Anyways, sorry. Well, the reason I mentioned that is because in my last episode, I was talking about the way that I felt like Kamu was approaching his HOH. And I mentioned that I thought Haley, if she won power, would also wield it in a personal way. And I was very correct about the way her HOH went down without even, I didn't even say that because I was thinking, if Haley's HOH, I just meant any power she had, she would wield it in a way that was personal. And I couldn't have been more right. I unfortunately just understand Haley. Anyways, so when feeds came back and Haley was the HOH, I was like, we are in hell. Another week, we're in hell. Nothing's getting better. This sucks. Okay. Haley was the HOH. I was miserable. I was miserable that Haley was the HOH from the beginning. Her targets were people that I liked. I was like, I'm not happy about this at all. Okay. Haley's the HOH. She also on feeds as soon as she won HOH, and this was shown in the episode to some extent, but she was literally I've had the worst 3 weeks. I'm gonna go up there. She had planned that little speech. I can't remember if they showed that in the episode too. I think they did. I think they showed the conversation of her telling Devins what she was gonna say about how she's had a hard week. I think that the conversation with Devins, she had been planning that she was going to be guys, you can't stay in my HOH room because I've had such a hard week. And I know you've all been saying bad things about me and this, that, and the other. And it's okay, Haley, the thing that gets me about Haley, and I'm going to try not to be such a hater, okay, this episode, but I really don't like Haley. And the way she ran her HOH was really frustrating. But the thing that bothers me the most about Haley is her lack of self-awareness, because she'll be I've been having the worst 3 weeks ever. And it's she literally said sorry, not to jump ahead to week 5, but at some point on feeds in the last few days, she literally was every step of the way things have gone, I've been in a bad position every single day. She literally said that she's been in the worst position possible every step of the way. It's that is simply not true. And it's I understand when things are rough, that getting you down, or even things getting you down, okay? But it's when things go your way, you can't even be happy about it. It's you won the HOH, and your first thought is, I've been having such a hard week though, 3 weeks, so I'm going to be mean to everybody, or I'm going to turn people away because they it's her first thought when something good happens is, well, I've been so miserable. And I don't understand that thought process. It's if you've been having a horrible 3 weeks of Big Brother, like some of the other people have, in my opinion. Like Melody, Mallory, as soon as something goes their way, don't you think they're going to be like super happy that things are going their way instead of being miserable and being like, well, everything sucks, so I'm going to like, anyways, sorry to, but I was just not happy that Haley was the HOH. Okay. I thought Lala was going on the block because she's like had a hatred for Lala for a while, but Lala ended up not going on the block at all. So that was good. I really thought Lala was going on the block. Haley's hates Lala. Taylor, as soon as Haley won the HOH, told Lala, hey, she's going to want to nominate you. So give her somebody else to nominate. So Lala went to Haley and told her that Melody had been saying negative things about her, which was true. She did say that, but, and I understand, like, I can't fault either Taylor or Lala for that move because it did keep Lala off the block. I mean, Taylor did go on the block then after the fact, but Taylor did go on the block regardless. But I think Taylor was just focused on the fact that like Lala is going to go on the block, so Lala should give some information so she doesn't end up on the block. And Haley did confront Melody about the fact that Melody was saying negative things about her. And Melody was like, yeah, I did say that. I did say that. And she's like, if you were HOH this week, who would you have nominated? And Melody's like, truthfully, you probably would have been on the block. Like, she was honest with her. And that pissed Haley off. And the thing about Haley is, and I really, again, I'm not trying to sound mean, okay? I feel like I'm sounding mean. But the thing about Haley is that she is such a negative person that I feel like regardless of what Melody said in this instance, she would have been upset. If Melody had said, no, I didn't say anything negative about you, she'd be like, Melody's a liar. Melody can't be trusted. She can't even own it. Melody owned it, and now it's like, why would you tell me that? Now I know. Like, the thing about Haley is like she literally wins HOH, and she's still like, I'm in a horrible position. This sucks. So I really don't think that Melody had any, I think regardless of what Melody did, she would have ended up on the block. Like, Haley just doesn't like her. She thinks she's a mean girl. Whatever. Like, Melody couldn't win in that moment. She was going to go on the block. It's like, who else would Haley have nominated? I can't think of it. Like, at the beginning of the week, Haley's target was mostly on Drew because the tool shed had turned on Drew. That had been building up in the edit. They wanted Drew out. And I will say, I think, obviously, I know how the whole week transpired. And I think, like, Angel had been talking about how if she won HOH, she would have backdoored Drew. And I think somebody from the red corner specifically, like the tool shed instead of the crossovers, being the one to nominate Drew, a huge difference because I think if any of the icons had nominated Drew, the week would have gone very differently because I think he would have had some more suspicion. But he already didn't really like the people in the red corner. And so I think he didn't think that was his core line. So like I think the first shot at Drew being from the tool shed made things happen the way it did. Sorry, I don't have notes. So I'm just kind of jumping all over the place. Haley was the HOH. I wasn't going to be happy about the noms. I didn't want her to be HOH because I don't really watch feeds when she's on feeds. Like, I will watch to some extent, but I mute things a lot when there are people I don't like. And then I read after the fact, like, what was said in certain conversations. Like, I tried to figure out what happened, but it's just like, I genuinely really don't like Haley, and I don't like engaging with things that I don't like. And I know that's not useful for, like, a podcast where I'm talking about Big Brother because obviously I'm not going to like everybody, but Haley just really irritates me. I have to be honest. I did find myself later in the week. I was like, you know what? I don't need to tweet every negative thought I have about Haley. Every time Haley bothers me, I don't need to tweet it. So I stopped tweeting when Haley would bother me. And I started just being like, this is annoying to me and moving on. Because literally anything I saw about Haley on my feed, like, if it upset me, I would like quote tweet it. Or if I was watching and she said something that upset me, I would post about it. And I just stopped doing that. Okay. Only if I could think of something that I felt was like funny or I've tweeted negatively about Haley since, but my point is I've refrained. And not even because I particularly care about Haley or like, I don't like being negative. I don't like being negative. Okay. I don't like Haley, for the record. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. Okay, so let me lock in. one thing to be like negative and be like aware of the fact that you're being negative. Like Melody, for as much as people are like, she's mean, like she's very self-aware of the fact that she's like being harsh. She also owns it. Like I liked that about Melody. Maybe it wasn't the best game move. I mean, again, I think she would have been screwed regardless. But like I like the fact that Melody was like, yeah, I did say that. Like I prefer that in a human being. Maybe it's not the best. I just think with Haley, you can't really anyways. So I wasn't happy about the nominations. But then the weekend was genuinely like the craziest rush of emotions because obviously we have the Big Brother time capsule. And I really thought Drew was going to get it was between Drew and D based off of the polls of like who was leading in the vote. And I thought, okay, Drew's going to get it because people aren't going to want to get like, I thought of all the people, Drew's probably going to get it. Okay. We're witnessing a steamroll. People are going to want to give somebody who's not one of the vets power. So I really thought Drew had the power. And this was escalated by the way Drew was acting and the fact that Dee denied that she had the power to Devins. She didn't say anything to the camera. Like Dee was not acting like she had any kind of power. Nobody came out in a punishment. So I was like, okay, it seems like Drew maybe has the power. Then he started talking about flipping coins and an HOH takeover. And he was saying things that indicated that maybe he did, in fact, have the coin. Time went by. On Saturday, Dee still hadn't told anybody that she had the power or not. She hadn't said anything to the camera. Drew was still being weird about having the HOH takeover and talking about flipping coins. It was very, very confusing. Okay. To the point where like it became a thing where a lot of people were like, Drew definitely has the power. Like Drew definitely has the power. Dee, I don't think has the power. And, like Drew definitely has the power. And then on Sunday, I think it was, at some point, Drew's talking about how he has a plan for next week and he's going to do something crazy, but he can't. And I was like, Drew has the power. Okay. So I spent all of Friday through until the episode aired Sunday night pissed off at Drew because I thought he had the power. And like the thing is, it was just such a like random twist of emotions, okay? Because I thought Drew had the power. So then when nominations happened on Friday, I was like waiting for them to change. Okay, I was waiting for them to change. Anytime feeds would be cut, I'm like, maybe Drew activated his power. Okay, people were like, when this power was last used in BB 23, I believe. Yeah, it was Big Brother 23. They were like, okay, it took 8 hours after the nominations for the coin to change. So people were like, I was waiting. Okay. Then Sunday rolled around and I was like, he definitely has power, but he just didn't use it. He's so stupid. He has the power. He didn't use it. I was pissed off at Drew. I was like, you know what? If he goes this week, that's his fault. That's his fault. And all, and then Sunday came and he did in fact not have D got the Big Brother bribe. And it was genuinely such a crazy rush of emotion. And after I found out that Drew didn't have the power, I was like, this is how Angela feels. Like I've been pissed off at Drew for something he made up in his head. Or I've been pissed off at Drew for something I made up in my head that he wasn't even doing. Anyways, sorry for jumping ahead. I skipped the veto. On Saturday, the veto is played, and it was the veto that I actually really liked. This veto competition. It was from Big Brother 27, and Morgan actually came back to host it, and it was great. It was that one where you have to like trick somebody into drinking poison. I really liked this veto. I think even Rick Devins at some point was talking about something, and he's like, he's like, it's kind of like that veto where you had to like figure out how to read people. Like that's kind of like a small example of how the game is in general. Like he said that at some point, and I was like, that's exactly why I like it, because if you know how to read people, it's good. I think some people are not the best at those kind of competitions. Like Drew, with all the love in my heart, kind of sucked at it. Like I think he just didn't know how, like I don't know, he didn't do a good job. But playing in the veto along with the 3 nominees, Taylor, Drew, and Melody, were Haley the HOH, Chuck, and then Mallory. Melody chose Mallory and Haley chose Chuck. So that was playing in the veto. And I was like, okay, I really do not want Haley or Chuck to win. Haley went out. I think Drew was the first person. No, I think Mallory was the first person to be eliminated, and then Drew, and then Taylor, Haley, Melody. I think Haley went first, then Melody, maybe Melody, then Haley. The final two people in the competition were Chuck and Taylor, and Taylor won, and I was really happy for her. I was a little bit stressed out because I was like, okay, Drew and Melody are still on the block, and I don't want to lose either of them, specifically not Melody. At this point, I was really pissed off at Drew because I still thought he had the power. So I was like, at this point, I don't want any of them to go. But if Drew leaves because he didn't use his power, then like I can't even be too upset about it. Okay, I'm pissed off at him, but I won't be upset at the circumstances. So that's kind of where I was when how I felt when the video was played. I was happy for Taylor, and I have to say, Taylor did a really good job this week with like how she used the veto, because after she used the veto, like she did a really good job of like engaging in conversations and staying in the loop with Haley. Like I think in Big Brother, like winning competitions is important, not just because it gives you some kind of power, like it literally took her off the block, but also because you have some more social capital. So the fact that like she knew she was safe, she was able to have conversations with Haley about like I don't know, she did a really good job of like not just winning the veto and then doing nothing. Like she won the veto and then she also like stayed involved in conversations and like really set herself up well going into the weeks to come. Like I was very impressed with Taylor this week. I can't remember what week it was. I think it was week 2. Maybe it was week 3. I think it was week 3. I don't know. At some point she had it was week 3, okay, because Rick Devens was no longer HOH. She had a conversation with Rick Devens in Kamu's HOH room. Kamu was not there, about like a plan she had about like tethers and staying in the alliance. And then, and I was like, Taylor is very perceptive, but I feel like maybe she started gaming a bit too late. And I feel like she did a good job week 4, and I feel like she's like I'm really impressed by Taylor. Not that I like disliked her, but I was kind of like she's being kind of passive, but I think it's good to see that like she was being passive, but she was like observing things. I don't know. Taylor really impressed me this week, and I was happy she won the veto, especially because it made Haley really miserable. See, like, this is what I mean. I want to say things like that, and then I'm like, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but I was really happy to see Haley miserable. After Taylor won the veto, Haley was literally sitting in her HOH room, like drinking wine and eating cake not by herself. Other people were there, and she was like so angry. And then she and Kamu fought a little bit, and I was like, this is good. Okay, Kamu, piss her off more, end up as the replacement nominee. Like that's what I was hoping for. Okay. Now that I'm talking out loud, I don't even remember who the replacement was. Oh, wait, I'm so stupid. Okay, obviously I know who the replacement was. Sorry. There was a whole thing that happened that led up to the replacement nominee. How could I forget? The replacement nominee went home. So I honestly, because I'm recording this Sunday, so like week 5's already started. So this person, I wasn't even thinking about them because with nothing but love in my heart, they're not around. So I just completely forgot about her. I'm sorry to the replacement nominee. Lyric. I don't know why I'm speaking as if it hasn't been, anyways. So Taylor's obviously going to save herself. So now the conversation is who's the replacement nominee going to be. I was like, Kamu's pissing her off. Maybe it'll be Kamu. I didn't think sincerely it was going to be Kamu, but I can always hope that Kamu goes home somehow. Like, as you know, I'm always going to be hoping, even if Kamu's the HOH or he won the veto and therefore can't be nominated, I'm always going to hope there's some secret way where Kamu goes home. Like, I want Kamu to go home. So when Kamu started pissing Haley off, I was like, good, put him on the block. Like, I don't know. Because she kept talking about she didn't want to get any more blood on her hands. She didn't want to get any more blood on her hands. And I was like, nominate Kamu. No blood. He's in your alliance. Like, I was delusionally like, oh my God, Kamu's going to end up on the block. He wasn't. I didn't sincerely think that was going to happen. But I did hope. For a little bit. But it was basically between Mallory and Lyric for the replacement nominee for the majority of the weekend. And Kamu from the beginning is really pushing for it not to be Lyric. But then he's like, I'm not going to die on the Lyric hill, whatever. Haley at some point says that she promised Mallory she wouldn't go on the block. I don't remember this. If it happened, I'm sure it did, but I genuinely don't remember it. Like, I'm really sorry, but I don't remember it. but the reason she and Kamu were having such a like heated discussion is because Kamu was pushing very hard for Lyric not to be the replacement nominee. And Haley's like, that might be good for your game, but I have a better relationship with Valerie. And I told her if I didn't go on the block, like we made a deal that if I didn't nominate her, she wouldn't nominate me. And Mallory has a good chance of winning an HOH in the past. So like, I don't want to break this trust and this deal that I've made because maybe for your game. And Kamu was like, if it's good for the alliance, it's good for everybody. And Haley's like, at the end of the day, they were going back and forth specifically about the replacement nominee because Kamu's like, Mallory would be the better option, and Haley was like, Lyric gets the least blood on my hands, which I think is probably true. I don't know. Kamu's obviously pushing for Mallory to be the replacement nominee. Lyric is also pushing for Mallory to be the replacement nominee. Despite being aligned with Mallory, she's like, look, I don't want to be stuck on a sinking ship. I want to work with you guys. She tries to sell her case. That doesn't really work in her favor. It kind of gets around. And this is why I started having a little bit of hope, okay? Because after Taylor won the veto, I was like, Melody or Drew are going. Like, we're screwed. Nobody's going to vote Lyric out I was like, the people Drew is supposedly aligned with want him gone, and they have the majority. So Drew's going to go. And if Drew saves himself, then Melody's going to go to weaken Drew. Like, I was like, we're screwed, okay? But then Lyric started throwing her friends under the bus, and I was like, you know what? Maybe we're not screwed. When Lyric started like going really hard for like Mallory should be the replacement, I was like, you know what? I think this might bite Lyric in the butt. Like, I think she's screwing herself over a little bit with the way she's throwing her allies under the bus. Like, I think this might make her seem unreliable, and I don't know how much they'll buy it. Like, the thing about Lyric is that I think there's a way to throw your allies under the bus that isn't like basically confirming to the side you're throwing your allies under the bus to that you're like abandoning your allies, because she's basically like, I don't want to work with them anymore. I want to get far in the game and you guys are like winning competition, so I want to work with you. It's like, in my opinion, that's a bad way to frame it, because it's like, what then if my side's doing poorly, you're going to jump to the other side? Like, you obviously, that's what you want to do if you're somebody who's like trying to play the middle, is like, if this side is doing well, you stick with the side that's doing well. Obviously, I'm not saying that like that's bad within itself, but I just don't think that you should be like this person. Like, there's a way to like say that you'll be loyal to another side without being like, my allies are doing poorly in the game right now, so I'm abandoning them, because then I don't want to be your ally. Like, I don't want to be your ally if when like the going gets tough, you're going to jump to the other side. Like, then you're not saying I'm going to be loyal to you for real. You're saying I'm going to be loyal to you because you're winning. Like, it was handled poorly on Lyrics. And to the point where I was like, this might end up screwing Lyric over. Like, she is throwing her allies under the bus. She also like does so unsuccessfully because Haley ends up still nominating her as the replacement nominee. So Lyric's the replacement nominee, and as soon as she's the replacement nominee, she like feels really bad, and she tells Mallory and Melody like, yeah, I threw you guys under the bus, but they made me do it. Like, they made me do it. We need to stick together. Melody's really upset about this, as in the DR, that like it makes her want to punch Lyric in the face. And I don't fully blame her. Like, obviously you shouldn't want to punch people in the face, whatever. But I do understand like how frustrating it would be if like you threw me under the bus and then you're like, they made me throw you under the bus. It's like, it's one thing if you're like, hey, I was desperate and I really don't want to be the replacement nominee, and I felt like it was between me, Lyric, and you, Mallory. So I was giving them reasons why I think that you might be a better person to put up, and I'm really sorry. Like, I don't like, but that's not what was happening. She literally was like, I'm not. She also like, the way she threw Mallory under the bus wasn't just like trying to argue why she shouldn't be the replacement nominee and why Mallory would be a better option. She was basically like, I don't want to work with them anymore. Also, they're coming after you. Like, Mallory would nominate Chuck. And like, she just started giving all this information about who Mallory allegedly would want to target and like what game moves she would want to make. And it's like, why would somebody trust Lyric as an ally if like the moment that you might be in danger, you start throwing your other allies like they're planned under the bus? Like, it just didn't make sense the way she went about it. It's not like, hey, who are your replacement nominee options? Well, if it's between me and Mallory, honestly, I think Mallory would be better. is a bigger threat. So like if she loses a comp, it's better to get her out now, especially when she only has one comp. Like if you're backdooring her, quote unquote, then like she only has the blockbuster to win. So you have a better chance of like if she loses that comp, getting her out now. Like there's a case to make that isn't like I'm abandoning my allies. And then to go to your allies and be like, I'm sorry, they made me abandon you. Like it was very confusing and sloppy to the point where I was like, this might work in my favor. Okay. And it did. And I was really happy. But for a while there, it didn't really seem like it mattered a ton. Like people knew that had happened, but she was still not the target. Drew was the target. At this point, I was really sad that Drew was the target because I knew that he did not have a power that he was squandering. So I was like, this is sad. Like Drew just genuinely trusts his allies, and that's sending him home. Like it's one thing to like trust your allies when you're a pawn, and it's another thing to like have a power and not use it when you're on the block because you trust your allies when you're pawn. It's like if you're on the block and you don't win the veto and one of the other nominees wins the veto, like at that point, there's nothing you can do except trust your allies when they say they have the numbers, and obviously gun for the blockbuster. But like there was nothing Drew could have done in that moment. Like I was mad and I'm like, he should throw people under the bus. And I'm glad he didn't, because I think that would have like ruined his chances. But it's like I wasn't mad at Drew anymore at that point because I'm like, I was just upset. I was like, I don't want Drew to go. I don't want Melody to go. I feel like Lyric's safe no matter who she's up against. So I'm like disappointed. So it was like, it was depressing there for a few days because I was like, okay, I don't think Lyric goes in any scenario. And that is my ideal person going of this 3 people on the block. Melody very quickly has become like my favorite house guest of the season, to be honest. I really like her. I really like her. A lot of people were like, oh, people only, not a lot of people, but I've seen people be like, you guys are only rooting for Melody because of the Drew thing. And I genuinely don't. Like, do I think they're cute and do I ship them to some extent? Yes. Okay. Is that why I'm rooting for Melody? No, I was hoping, I was like, I don't care if Drew goes. I mean, I do care if Drew goes, but like, if I have to lose Drew to keep Melody, I'll live. I don't want Melody going. Okay. And I'm glad Drew also didn't go. Like my best case scenario was Lyric going, but I really didn't want Melody to go. And there was a moment where it was like, okay, if Drew and Melody are on the block, Drew goes. If Lyric and Melody are on the block, Lyric might go. Like there was a moment, a very brief moment where it was like Melody was safe in all scenarios. And I was like, okay, I'm happy. Then the tide started turning and it was like Drew safe in any scenario. And I was like, okay, great. But that's like, it was a very like crazy week because from the beginning, it was like, no matter who is on the block, if it's Melody or Drew, they're going. Like Lyric is safe. But then things started turning and it was like, I can't remember who started it, but there was a moment where Dee and Devins were like, maybe we should save Drew. Like, is getting rid of Drew the best case scenario for us? Or is that just the best case scenario for like the red corner? Which was really crazy because it was them who like pushed the red corner to nominate Drew. Like, it was really, Angela's had a suspicion on Drew for weeks. So she's like, yeah, we should like Angela gave everybody else this idea. And then after Dee and Devins were like, why did we have this idea? I'm like, it was literally Angela. Okay. It was literally Angela. Like, yes, you guys were like also there pushing Haley, but I'm like, Angela literally gave you this idea. Okay. So Angela really pushed this idea that Drew was untrustworthy. And Haley, the thing that really irritated me about Haley's HOH, I mean, there were many things, okay? But one of the things that really irritated me about Haley's HOH was like, and they did a really good job in the edit of showing this. Like, it was funny because I've had these interpretations of Haley, and a lot of the times the way that I'm watching the live feeds is not really the way the edit makes things come across. Like, I just, based off of like the amount that I'm watching, or just like, you know, they can only fit so much in the edit. Sometimes I do feel like it's purposeful and they're hiding things. Sometimes I feel like they just can't, you know, capture all of the nuance or like the details of everything in the episodes. But I very much have had a bad opinion of Haley and felt like she was very negative and like very like I and the way they edited her in the show literally made her come across just as petty as I feel like I've interpreted Haley. They literally showed Taylor like making some comment about Haley's snacks and like Haley taking issue with that, leading up to Haley nominating Taylor. I'm like, Haley's pettiness was very like clear in the edit in a way that I appreciated it, because I'm like, okay, they're not making it seem like Haley, like they're making Haley seem ridiculous for this I've had like such a hard 3 weeks thing, when for all I know, whatever. But like they could have made it seem like Haley really has a hard week, and I'm sure people have said negative things about Haley. Okay. I'm not saying that nobody has ever said anything bad about Haley in the house. I think it would just be one thing if Haley wasn't going around saying negative things about other people, and also like really random negative things. Okay. Like, and they literally, like, when Melody and her had a conversation about it, they did flash back to like, or Melody did say in the DR, like, I know Haley's said negative things about like my body and the way I talk. And they did show her literally like when they were making the Red Corner alliance, or when they were making the Tool Shed alliance, like the day they locked Rome out and it was like all of them in the bathroom. Haley literally in that moment, they were talking about like, I don't remember what like the context of it, not that there really is one, but she said, I don't like Melody, her boobs are too perky. What the hell does that have to do with you not liking Melody in like a game sense? Or like nobody was going around being like, I don't like this person because they're this way. Like they were talking about like who's not in their alliance or who, like, and she literally was like, Melody has boobs I don't like. That's weird. Like Haley is not this like angel who's never said anything bad about anybody, and she's acting like anybody's saying any, like, I don't even know. I don't even know. And I think what this week really confirmed to me is that if Haley did really, like, if Haley really is having a hard time in the Big Brother house, and if she really did have like a miserable 3 weeks, it's because she is a miserable person. And I really don't, I'm not trying to be mean, okay? Because I'm depressed. I can be a miserable person sometimes where like no matter what happens, I'm like, this sucks, and I view it negatively. Okay, I understand that. But I would also be self-aware enough to be like, I'm being really negative right now. I'm being really negative. Everything's upsetting me. Haley is like a very negative person and then acts as if like she's not a negative person, as if like people are just being mean to her for no reason. It's like, you're literally the HOH and you are still like, this week has sucked. I'm like, then like find some positivity. If you've been having a hard 3 weeks, you feel like nothing's been going your way, but then you win power, shouldn't be that like, oh, something's going my way. No, nothing, no matter what happened this week, even if she got her intended target out from the beginning, somehow still the week would have been a failure for Haley. So I'm glad that all things considered, it actually didn't go her way, because even if it had gone her way, she would have found a way for it to not have actually been going her way and everything to suck. And like, I genuinely, I need to calm down, but Haley really gets on my nerves. And the thing is, I don't really, she's an anti-vaxxer. So like, who am I to like police my anger towards Haley? I just, a lot of what irritates me about Haley is her personality. And I don't want to be an asshole and be like, this person's personality irritates me, because that feels really mean. But it's just true. It's just true. I am not like the kindest person in the world. I have moments where I'm very negative and I'm very mean. I would just also, I try my best to be self aware. And I really can't imagine that I would be in Haley's position and I would be like talking so horribly about everybody else. And then I'd be like, I've had a hard 3 weeks. It's like, have some perspective. Have some perspective. Like, you haven't had that hard of a 3 weeks. Okay. I can't think of it. And I genuinely found it so confusing because I'm like, what is she talking about? Like, what is she talking about? Okay, she was a have not. A lot of other people have been have nots. She hasn't been on the block. None of her closest friends have gone home or even been on the block. Like, I couldn't think of a single thing that has not gone Haley's way in the first 3 weeks of Big Brother. Like, you're literally fine. Nobody was ever talking about nominating you. And anytime I saw her saying Lala was so mean to me, I never saw Lala actually being mean to her. I only ever heard her saying that people were being mean to her. I don't understand Haley. And on some level, thank God that I don't understand her thought process. I really shouldn't be surprised though, because I really don't understand the thought process behind being an anti-vaxxer. So I don't understand Haley. And you know what? Thank God for that. But I will say, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. because I didn't take notes for this episode. I will for week 5. I swear to God, I'll have notes for week 5. I said that last week that I would have notes for week 4, but I didn't, and my apologies. But sorry to jump back. Let me jump forward. Taylor took herself off the block. Lyric was the replacement nominee, and at this point, it felt like Drew was pretty much screwed. On Tuesday, things started changing a tiny bit. Okay, it was like maybe Melody will be good. Maybe more people are turning on Lyric. I don't know. I was feeling hopeful. Then Wednesday, it was more locked down than ever, that Drew was looking more and more safe. Dee and Devins really wanted to keep Drew. Dee more so. She was really spearheading it. And they're like, how can we convince the red corner, like Haley, that it's their idea for us to keep Drew? So they started trying to convince them, and they were like not super on board. They tried to get them to think it was their idea, and they did kind of come around on like, if it's Drew and Lyric, maybe we'll keep Drew. And then they were like, actually, we should split up Lyric and Melody. They were like, if it's Drew and Melody, we'll keep Drew, but if it's Lyric and like, if I don't remember. There was like a scenario where Drew was safe, but there was also a scenario where Drew wasn't going home. Haley, Kamu, and I would say Chuck, but I feel like Chuck's not really there spearheading anything, because, not to be an asshole towards Chuck, I don't know anything about that guy, but like, I feel like he does nothing. Like he's doing a bit more in week 5, which I'll get to that in my next podcast episode. But like, Chuck genuinely, I don't feel like is spearheading anything, because I feel like he just regurgitates what other people are telling him he should do. Anyways, so Chuck wasn't really part of that, but Haley and Kamu kind of did not agree with the Drew of it all. They were like, we should really split up Drew and Melody. Okay. They really wanted to split up Drew and Melody. So they were like, if Melody's still on the block, we send her home. If Drew's still on the block, we should just send him home. I think, I can't remember if, I think there was a scenario where they were like, okay, if Lyric and Drew are on the block, we'll keep Drew maybe for a little bit, but then they went back on that. But Dee at this point is really set on keeping Drew, to the point where she's like, I don't care if they're not, like, we will convince them to keep Drew. We can't lose Drew. It doesn't make sense for us to lose Drew. And I was like, thank you, finally, because I was really annoyed the entire week with the like them wanting to get Drew out, because it didn't feel logical to me. Like, they at some point were literally, I think Devins and Angela, maybe Dee was in the conversation. We're talking about like, I really hope if Drew gets evicted, he doesn't blow up the red corner on the way out. Like, I don't want him to do that. And I'm like, he's not blowing it up right now. Like, he's said nothing about your alliance to anybody else. Like, he's not trying to turn on you, even when he's actively on the block. Like, shouldn't you take that as a sign that he's loyal to you? And eventually they did wake up to that. They were like, Drew's loyal to us. Like, the only thing he's ever said is about going after Haley, Chuck, and Kamu, and shouldn't we want that? Like, if he's not going after us, we need people within our alliance to take shots at other members of our alliance that aren't us, so we can remain loyal to our alliance while the people we don't really want to work with anymore in our alliance. Like, so the tide started turning, but it still seemed like for a while Melody was screwed. For a little bit there, it was like either way, Drew and Melody are screwed. So I was like, I hope one of them wins the blockbuster, but like, I don't even know. Then it seemed like Melody's screwed, but Drew, if he doesn't win, Drew had a better chance than Melody. And then Thursday morning, everything changed. Okay. Things that I haven't talked about yet before I get to the vote shifting on Thursday. Barrett really irritated me this week. Okay. And Barrett's kind of disappointed me. I was really rooting for him the first week, and he really irritated me this week with like the way he was lying to Drew, and it all worked out the way it was supposed to. So like, now that time has passed, I'm not as mad at Barrett as I was during the week. But during the week, I was just so annoyed at everybody's logic in targeting Drew. Like, the thing is, I understand Drew has been messy, and I understand why people in his alliance would maybe like want to turn on him in certain moments, or they wouldn't. It was just like the way Drew was behaving while they were acting like he was untrustworthy. I'm like, shouldn't you guys wake up to the fact that he literally does not want you guys out? Like, he doesn't want you out. You're targeting somebody. It's so soon to take a shot at your alliance when he's not turning on you. Like, a more paranoid person or somebody less loyal to that alliance would take being put on the block as enough of a like shot at them to then break up the alliance and go all against it and be like, actually, I'm in this alliance with this person, that person. Like, he didn't say that. I literally watched a conversation with him and Melody on feeds when she mentioned the fact that she had an alliance with Lyric and Mallory, and she was like, people thought we were aligned. We didn't make an alliance name until like last week or something. And he's like, what was the name? Like, and she's like, you have to tell me something. And he wasn't giving any information away. And she didn't tell him the name either. But like, my point is that Drew in all of this wasn't like, I'm on the block, Melody's on the block, I'm going to be as messy as I can. And like, he wasn't revealing any information. He wasn't super suspicious that he was like going to be nominated. He said nothing of the vets and like going after the vets or them losing his loyalty. He only had issues with Chuck, Kamu, and Haley because he already had those issues with Chuck, Kamu, and Haley. So like, it was very frustrating to watch because I'm like, you guys are mad at Drew for something he didn't even do. Which is why when I was mad at Drew for something he didn't even do, I was like, wow, I understand Angela a little bit because I really understood that paranoia, like to some extent. The issue with Angela is that like she's kind of that way about a lot of people. So I don't know. And I was more mad at Drew like for his sake. I'm like, if he goes home and he did something stupid, how does that impact me? I mean, it does from a viewer's perspective because I'd be annoyed, but I was like mad at him on his own behalf. You know, I was like, you're only screwing yourself over. Why am I mad? Why am I mad at Drew? I mean, that's not true. I remained mad at Drew until I found out I didn't have a reason to be mad at Drew. There was a tiny little bit of me that was like, maybe Dee actually does have the power and she got like not that good of a power. And I was right. She got the bribe, which I do think I mentioned, which like is again kind of a flop power. I'm glad she got that one. The thing about Dee is I don't really know if she needs any of the powers really. Like the bribe, it's good up until like it's good for the entire game. It's only $5,000. Not that $5,000 isn't a lot. Okay, if somebody gave me $5,000, I'd be like, thank you so much. But I'm just saying in terms of like you're playing the game. I also don't know how much their stipend is, but I imagine like it's not like it. I don't think it's like I remember last season. Was it last season? Yeah. Zach was on Big Brother 27 when Zach had the whatever it was called, the buyout. I think it was $10,000. And I remember when he was on the block and he didn't give it, like he didn't use it to like pay his way out of being on the block. I remember a lot of people were like, this is honestly really stupid because if he stayed around longer, like he could probably make that money back in the stipend. And he was positioned well enough that I think he would have made it until jury and beyond. Like it was so crazy how well Zach was doing before he literally like threw his game away because he didn't want to like give $10,000 to. It was so stupid. Anyways, so like $5,000 in the scheme of like what you're making in terms of the stipend, I think in total is probably not that big a deal. And especially in the context of like the fact that like you're playing for a prize of 7,500,000 or 7,750 whatever, $750,000. Like the $5,000 is not like that much to move people. I also just don't think Dee needs to bribe somebody with $5,000 to convince anybody to do what she wants. Like I don't think she needs that. So in that regard, I'm glad that it's kind of wasted on her. I feel like she might use it. She didn't tell Devins at first. She has eventually told Devins, but I think that's in week 5. I think that happened after the vote flip. So I don't know. I was glad that Drew didn't actually have the power and that the coin power was still up for grabs. I mean, at this point, a newbie will get it. And I really am excited for that because I wanted somebody on the other side of the house, like to get the coin power. Like I want it to be used by somebody who needs it and by somebody who will like literally overthrow the HOH. Like that's why I was so mad at Drew, because I had a tiny glimmer of hope after Haley won the HOH when it seemed like Dee didn't have a power. That and Drew was talking about flipping coins. I was like, oh my God, guys, it's okay that Haley's the HOH. It's going to be overturned. And then people on the internet started being like, Drew has I'm not even kidding. Before it was like people, I literally commented on TikTok because somebody was like, Drew has the coin. He has 50% chance of overturning Haley's HOH. I literally commented on that TikTok and I was like, guys, this hasn't been confirmed. Stop spreading misinformation and giving people hope. Are we not miserable enough with the Haley HOH? Okay, we don't need disappointment. And at first it was like a glimmer of hope, but then I was like, I don't want to get my hopes up. And then time progressed and I was pissed off. And then I was relieved that Drew didn't have the power. I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy Dee got a power, even though I didn't want Dee to have a power, because at least it wasn't that impactful of a power. And at least that meant that Drew wasn't squandering his alleged power, his hypothetical power that he didn't have, which I will say it's going to be so funny when he gets out of the house for him to see all of that, because we were so mad at him for something that he wasn't even doing. It was so funny. I literally tweeted, if Drew goes home on Thursday, the crowd should not only be allowed to boo, they should be able to throw tomatoes at him. Because and I didn't mean that after I found out he didn't throw his power away, because I'm like, you know what, if he goes, it's sad. But when I thought he threw his power away, I was like, you know, people deserve to throw tomatoes at him. They deserved it. Like, this is anyways, I'm being dramatic. Okay, let me lock back in. I'm jumping all over the place because I did take notes for this week. And I'm also recording later than I normally do. So part of me, I'm like, I'm saying things and I'm like, I don't even know if that's happened yet. But anyways, so on Wednesday, it was genuinely very miserable because Dee was trying to flip the votes for Drew, but it seemed like Drew and Melody's best chance of staying together was for both of them to stay was if Melody won the blockbuster, Drew had more votes to stay. So that was what I was hoping for going into Thursday. And it was like really sad to watch Drew and Melody on the feeds. Like they were crying. They really moved me. Like Melody already started winning me over last week. And this week I was literally like, I don't want to lose Melody. Like, she's not my favorite player. Do I think she's the best player of the season? No. Am I rooting for her? Yes. And I think also, like, again, not to jump ahead to week 5, but Melody and Drew survived the week, and I think Melody, like, you can, at least I, in my opinion, have seen a clear shift in like the way she's approaching the game and like her energy. Like, I feel like she was just really defeated last week because it's like on the block, all your allies are on the block. Haley literally cried at some point on feeds because she's like worried about people thinking she's mean, and people are telling her, like, Haley's telling her she's a mean girl, and she's like, I feel like I am being meaner than like I want to come across, and like all of these things where I feel like Melody was like really, really doubting herself, not only because she was on the block and she wasn't winning anything, but because the person in power who was targeting her was literally telling her, like, you're a mean person, and the reason I'm nominating you is because you're a mean person. I think that really got to Melody, and she's like, I'm mean, like I'm a bad, like I think that it was like very, very much like getting to Melody the way that Haley had been talking about her. That, and like she and Drew, you know, either way it sucked because she didn't want to lose Drew, and then Drew cried. It was very emotional watching them on feeds. Wednesday I went to bed and I was like, okay, Melody for Blockbuster. I literally got so desperate that I Googled how to cast a protection spell because I was like, I need to cast a spell to protect Melody. And I don't think I did the spell, okay? I didn't do that, but I did light a candle and like picture what I want to happen. And I just kept picturing it the entire day. And I didn't picture Melody winning Blockbuster. I only pictured like Lyric walking out of the house. That's what I was imagining, and it happened. And I was really happy. But anyways, so on Thursday, Dee went to bed early on Wednesday, but it seemed like Drew has a better chance of staying. But unless Melody wins the Blockbuster, she's screwed. So Thursday morning, I woke up and the votes had flipped. Dee was like, you know what? Fuck this. We're not going to do what they want us to do. In any situation, Lyric goes. Lyric is a number for them. She's not a number for us. Drew, I want to keep Drew, and let's keep Melody too, because we can, like, it changed. And I was like, God, it was like God had come down and granted me a gift. I was like so happy. I was like, oh my God, we have a chance. Okay, worst case scenario now is Lyric winning the blockbuster. We just need Drew or Melody to win the blockbuster. Now, obviously, things can change really quickly. So leads went down on Thursday. I was like, I mean, I don't know, maybe Melody will still go, but I was feeling really hopeful. Okay. And I was also in this state where, again, I said the night before, I envisioned Lyric going home, and I was like, I'm not even panicking. Okay, Lyric's going home. That's the only reality I'm existing in right now. I cannot imagine another reality. And if the other reality comes in, I'll deal with it when it does. But right now, the only reality I'm imagining is Lyric going home. Okay, Lyric is going home, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Lyric's going home. I've already decided that Lyric's going home. Therefore, Lyric is going home. That's how I was approaching the day all of Thursday. I was like, Lyric's going home. Lyric is going home. It's fine. And I mean nothing against Lyric. Like, I do think she kind of screwed herself over this week. I just really like Drew and I really like Melody, and I was rooting for them over Lyric. That's just my truth. Okay, that's my truth. Drew and Melody both have been wanting to be on the show since they were 8. They care. They really were devastated at the idea of leaving. I didn't feel that from Lyric. Okay, I really didn't. She tried and she was gaming, and I understand that some people were like, well, at least Lyric's putting in some work while Melody's defeated. But I feel like Melody was defeated because she was faced with the fact that like her game was very likely going to end. And again, I really think it's easier said than done when like you're in the house and you're losing a lot and things keep going against you. Like for everything that Haley was saying about like I've had a really hard 3 weeks, like that genuinely was Melody's like the way Melody was. Okay, Melody had been having a really hard 3 weeks. Like things were really getting her down, and I really can't emphasize enough how like emotionally difficult it would be to be on the block, to be targeted, to lose and like be so defeated while the person who nominated you literally basically told you that you're a mean person. Like I think it was all compounding for Melody where she's like, even if I stay, like my closest ally is going to go home. This person says I'm a mean person. Like I just feel like a lot was like getting Melody down, and I have seen just a change in her so far. So I'm feeling hopeful. Thursday night, she woke up and she was like, I'm going to win the blockbuster. Dee, meanwhile, was flipping the votes to get Drew to stay. Then, and Drew was even like, so if it's me and if it's Melody and Lyric, Melody's going. And Dee's like, what are you talking about? Melody's staying. Melody's Lyric goes in any circumstance. So I was like, I was so happy. Then the live show, we got the Drew and Melody when Drew's crying and Melody's crying segment, which was very beautiful to watch on feeds. They cut it out of order. They made that seem like that was before Drew had a conversation with the vets arguing why Melody would stay. Drew had that conversation earlier in the day on Wednesday, I believe, maybe even on Tuesday. I don't remember, but that conversation was after. Melody cried like literally Wednesday night. Like she was just defeated at that point. It doesn't really matter the way it was cut in order. And obviously a lot changed like literally 2 hours before the live episode. So they couldn't like get anything in about the vote flipping. My sister told me that it's in Sunday's episode. Because I am recording this Sunday and I have yet to see Sunday's episode, but I do believe that the vote flip will be in the next episode. I'll talk about that a little bit then. But yeah, so the blockbuster was a sponsored Paw Patrol puzzle, which was so funny. Drew won the blockbuster. Lyric went home 8-3, and everybody was blindsided. Lyric in her exit interview was talking about how, like, you know, if there's a competitor, the competitor goes home. Not that she's not a competitor, but like Lyric literally, she won 1 veto. Okay. It's impressive. I'm not discounting the 1 veto she won, but it's like, you're not like a comp beast. Okay. Not that she said she was, I guess. Melody's lost and Lyric at least has 1 win. Okay. And I will say that I really understand Melody's frustration with Lyric, because Lyric's like, I've been on the block so many times, but she had never been on the block on eviction day. She'd gotten the veto used on her twice. And there's a huge difference in being on the block like Friday through Monday and then being on the block like the entire week. Like once the veto's used on you, you have like a few days where you know you're safe. Like Melody had experienced being on the block up until like both times she had been on the block, she was on the block up until eviction day. Like that's a lot more difficult to deal with, especially because things change so quickly and you're like, maybe I'm safe, maybe I'm not safe. Like there's so much more to do once the vote, like the nominees are finalized, that Lyric hadn't experienced. So I understand Melody's frustration because like the first week that Lyric was on the block, she was the replacement nominee. Actually, wait, no, she wasn't. Jason was, no, wait, not Jason. What's his name? Rome was the replacement nominee, and she got the veto used on her. My apologies. So the first week that she had been on the block, she and Melody were on the block together. Melody was trying to get the veto used on her. Rick Devens used the veto on Lyric instead. Then the next time Lyric's on the block, she wins the veto. So as of Saturday, like the second week that she was on the block, she was on the block for like one day because she got nominated on Friday and she won the veto on Saturday. So like less than a day of worrying about going home. You won the veto. You're going to take yourself off the block. At that point, like there's no stress. So to compare that to like Melody having to play Blockbuster now a second time, I understand Melody's frustration, okay? Especially because Melody from the beginning, people didn't want to work with her. The HOH is literally saying like, you're a mean person. It's a different feeling. Like Lyric was being told the entire week, like you're safe, don't even worry about it, which that pissed me off. Another thing that Haley was doing, she was like, and she said this, sorry, not to jump into week 5. The sun has literally set in the time that I've recorded this podcast. So I'm gonna wrap up soon. My apologies. And sorry if this episode's a little bit shorter than normal. I didn't take notes for week 4. It's been a chaotic week for me. And so I feel like I might have missed some stuff, but I got all the points across that I wanted to get across. So I'm sorry if the episode's kind of shorter than usual. But anyways, let me just get to my beef with Haley. Haley kept being like, I don't want this to happen, so it's not going to happen. And this is an issue that I feel like has been going on with the HOHs in general, where it's like they think they have final say. She, the night before, was telling people, like, if you don't hear it from me, the vote hasn't changed. After she got blindsided on feed, after, she was literally like, I told you guys that if it didn't come from me, the votes didn't change. It's like, do you not realize they are not a dictator? You do not have the votes. They have the votes. If they decide, like, I'm so tired of people being like, I don't have the votes, or you have your vote. Okay. Vote the way you want for yourself. And I understand if like everybody's voting one way, you don't want to be the lone vote because maybe that'll impact. I mean, I actually don't totally understand that because it's like, whatever. Anyways, it's gotten dark in the time that I've recorded this. I don't have notes. I feel like I said everything that I wanted to say. I'll expand more on stuff that I missed for week 5's recap. I'm sorry if I missed anything from week 4. But I wanted to record an episode specifically about week 4 because it was such a chaotic, like back and forth week that I don't feel like I fully captured in this podcast episode. So I'm sorry. I'll have a better background and better lighting for my next episode. I feel like this episode is going to be less than an hour long by the time I edit it. So I'm really sorry that it's a short episode, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great week, and you will hear from me. This episode's probably going out like Monday, so you'll hear from me before the weekends. So my goal is to record my week 5 episode on Thursday, like I had been doing. So hopefully I'll be back on track. And if I miss anything for week 4, I'll mention it in my next episode. I'm really sorry. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great week. You'll hear from me later this week since this episode is going out on Monday. Bye.